Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and French President Emmanuel Macron held on Monday summit talks in Paris. The two leaders addressed key issues in a joint press conference after the talks. More details follow.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and French President Emmanuel Macron held on Monday summit talks in Paris. The talks focused on boosting strategic ties as well as regional developments. After the talks, the two leaders held a joint press conference. Speaking during the press conference, President al-Sisi said that the Egyptian-French relations witnessed major progress in recent years. He added that all aspects of cooperation were covered in the talks, including military ties. President al-Sisi said that the talks were transparent and reflected unified stances in major issues. Addressing the issue of the coronavirus, President al-Sisi said that Egypt managed to maintain a balance between precautionary measures and the caution of economic activities. He called for differentiating between terrorism and Islam with its moderate values. He said that Egypt paid a heavy price in its war against terrorism. The president said that during the talks he reviewed Egypt's efforts in supporting human rights, adding that a strategy is being drawn in cooperation with the non-governmental organizations. The president said that he is responsible for protecting 100 million Egyptians from facing a situation similar to that in Syria and Libya. On Libya, the president called for dismantling all armed groups in Libya. For his part, Macron said that his country respects the ceasefire in Libya and hopes that parties reach a political settlement for the conflict. He added that the talks covered the issue of combating terrorism as well as coordination in facing the coronavirus pandemic. Macron noted that a number of agreements will be signed between the two sides during the visit to boost cooperation. President al-Sisi arrived in Paris on Sunday, starting a three-day official visit to France. Egypt and France enjoy close, friendly relations, which have been enhanced in recent years. The two countries are keen on bolstering bilateral cooperation on economic, political, and cultural levels. France is a very important economic partner to Egypt, with the country having pumped €5 billion in current investments. The trade exchange between the two sides has reached €3 billion. The two sides are also working on enhancing cooperation in several communications, information technology fields. This is focusing in particular on capacity building, providing support for entrepreneurship, as well as research and development in the field of artificial intelligence. Over the past 4 years, mutual visits conducted by the two countries' heads and top officials have intensified. The most recent visits were in 2019, with President Macron paying a visit to Egypt in January. In August 2019, President al-Sisi paid a return visit to France to participate in a Group of 7 summit. On the military level, the armed forces of both Egypt and France regularly conduct joint maritime drills in the Mediterranean Sea, with the aim of exchanging expertise, confronting threats, and maintaining maritime security. Earlier in November, France's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jean-Yves Le Drian, visited Cairo and met with President al-Sisi and his Egyptian counterpart, Sameh Shoukry. He also met with Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Imam al-Tayyib. Starting his three-day official visit to Paris on Sunday, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian on a number of regional and international files. During the talks, President al-Sisi discussed a number of regional issues, including developments in the Eastern Mediterranean, Libya, and Syria. President al-Sisi said that regional disputes will be settled by the international community's support to its national institutions. They also reviewed developments of the Palestinian issue and means of reviving the peace process. President al-Sisi also asserted Egypt's keenness on boosting strategic partnership with France. Le Drian said that France wants to enhance coordination with Egypt on Middle East issues in light of the strategic balance Egypt has maintained in the Eastern Mediterranean and the region.
Meanwhile, the Egyptian community in France held a welcoming gathering in front of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's residence during his visit to Paris. The Egyptian expats chanted the patriotic songs and slogans in support of Egypt and the president. They raised the Egyptian flag. The head of the General Association of the Egyptian Community in France said that Egyptians were keen on taking part in the gathering to show support for the president's efforts in development in all fields.
French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Monday to discuss a number of the regional crises, especially tensions in the Mediterranean. The president held talks with his French counterpart and other top French officials. The discussions tackled bilateral cooperation and regional and international issues of mutual concern. Recent tensions in the eastern Mediterranean, the Libyan and Syrian crises, counter-terrorism, as well as reviving the Middle East peace process were among issues to be discussed. El-Sisi's visit comes following Macron's visit to Cairo in January 2019 and aims to strengthen relations between Paris and Cairo, which is the strategic partner for stability in the Middle East. On November the 2nd, President el-Sisi and President Macron discussed numbers of issues of mutual concern, particularly the Libyan turmoil, in a phone call.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV.
And polling stations opened their doors on Monday for voters to cast their ballots in the second round of the runoff of the parliamentary elections. Meanwhile, Egyptian embassies and consulates continue to receive ballots in mails from Egyptian expatriates as they vote for individual seats in the runoffs of the 2020 parliamentary elections second phase. More details.
Polling stations opened their doors for voters to cast their ballots in the second round, the runoff of the parliamentary elections. Voting in the runoff of the second phase of the parliamentary elections inside Egypt kicks off on Monday. The runoffs will be limited to candidates running under the individual system who will compete for the 101 undecided seats. And up to 42 individual seats were secured during the first round, and 142 seats reserved for the candidates running under the party list system were decided during the first round. The runoff of the second stage includes the constituencies of 13 governorates. Minister of Local Development General Mahmoud Sha'rawi confirmed that all measures were taken to secure the two-day vote. He also stressed on abiding by all precautionary measures and intensifying the disinfecting and sterilization of the polling stations. Meanwhile, Egyptian embassies and consulates continue to receive ballots in mails from Egyptian expatriates as they vote for the individual sets in the runoffs of the 2020 parliamentary elections second phase. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs Operations Room is monitoring all procedures related to the conduct of the electoral process abroad in coordination with the National Election Authority (NEA), as well as the guidelines governing the procedures for the work of the election committees for Egyptians abroad and transmit any complaints. According to the National Election Authority, expatriates Egyptians will complete the casting of the votes in the 2020 House of Representatives elections through postal voting. Egyptian diplomatic missions around the world are set to receive mail-in ballots over a period of 3 days until December 7th. Expats will complete the casting to their votes in the parliament elections through postal voting. The feature has been put in place in the light of the exceptional measures taken worldwide to confront the COVID-19 pandemic. On Monday, the Egyptian National Elections Authority announced the results of the runoff of the parliament elections first phase, which was held last month. It said that more than 5 million people cast a vote in elections held in November, with a participation rate of 20.01%.
And for an in-depth look into President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's visit to France, we are pleased to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Bayoumi, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Ambassador Bayoumi, what is the importance of the current visit by President al-Sisi to France, and to what extent the important issue of the Eastern Mediterranean region was tackled during the talks between President al-Sisi and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron?
In this visit and those meetings, we have three main files. On the international level, of course, we are facing now the epidemic of Corona-19, whether from its health impact or its economic impact, the negative impact of the corona.
Yes.
And a couple of days ago, there was a meeting of the G20 in Riyadh, and they agreed upon allocating $21 billion to help those who cannot face the impact, the economic impact of the disease.
Yes.
This is, I think, international subject which all the leaders are discussing.
Yes, indeed.
Another side that we are asking the developed countries to invest in Africa, to maintain a sort of flow of money going to Africa to compensate African debt, African debts and African imports. And Europe agreed about that, so I think it's one good item on the French-Egyptian discussions.
Yes.
And we are also combating the illegal crimes, whether it is terrorism, drug trafficking, illegal migration, and money laundering. And I think
Yes.
this is a very important subject nowadays.
Indeed.
To face all these crimes.
Yes.
We have the second file is the regional file.
Indeed.
In our region, we are facing many problems where in Libya or in Lebanon, and there France has a very good impact on the Lebanese, Egypt also. Then the problem in Syria, where the north part of Syria is occupied by a foreign country. The problem in Yemen and how to settle the problem there. And the last problem, it is the East Mediterranean discoveries of gas and oil, where we have already put the map, the economic map of the economic zone for between Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece, and this is a sort of a threatened interest of the three countries, and France is taking a very good position to support Egypt and the member states of the EU. Here we have to be very clear that we are not ready to accept anybody to cross the red line, which our president put it quite clear in his speech in President Nadeeb speech. Now we have the bilateral file, which is the third file, which is the most important. France is a traditional strategic partner since decades. We are proud that many of our leaders are have their studies in France, starting from Tahsin. A couple of our Azhar sheikhs studied in France. The French language in Egypt is very common foreign language. The French protocol was taken in consideration to establish the foreign ministry French protocol. Our civil law is based on what we call Code Napoleon. Although our civil law mainly depend on the Islamic law, but also from the technical point of view, it is applying many lines of Code Napoleon. Then we come to what we are asking now to expand our trade relations, our investment relations, because we have a very good agreement, the association agreement between Egypt and the 28 member states of Europe, France among them. So we do not have any trade barriers between Egypt and France. No custom duties or any barriers. That made our trade became 4 times the volume before the agreement. And although this is a very good result, but we are greedy, we are ambitious. We want France to double its investment in Egypt to help Egypt its development. And also our export to France must be doubled or tripled even in the coming few years. So we can finance our development programs, so we can create more jobs. And this is the most important file there. Imagine also that we have a very important and big community of Egyptians living in France and working there legally. And France and the EU are happy with the Egyptian performance concerning the illegal migration. We stopped all the activities of this sort. So the sky is the limit. We can, of course, go ahead and maintain our efforts in order to make our relation with France, with Germany, with all the member states of Europe much better even than before.
Indeed, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Always a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you very much for your precious input.
Egypt reported 418 new coronavirus infections on Sunday, bringing the total number of cases to 118,432 people since the outbreak hit the country in mid-February. The Health Ministry also reported 21 new deaths, bringing the total number of fatalities to 6,771. The ministry added that the number of those who have recovered reached 103,501 people.
More than 66.4 million people have been reported to be infected by the novel coronavirus globally. The most recent tally on Monday showed 1,531,875 people have died from the pandemic. Infections have been reported in more than 210 countries and territories since the first cases were identified in China in December 2019. Stricter coronavirus lockdowns were imposed across the globe, including in the United States, the state of California, South Korean capital Seoul, and Germany's Bavaria region, as governments try to control surging COVID-19 cases. Britain is preparing to become the first country to roll out the COVID-19 vaccine developed by the United States and German companies this week, initially making the shot available at hospitals before distributing the stocks to doctors' clinics. South Korean President Moon Jae-in called for expanded coronavirus testing and more tough tracing as the country struggled to control its latest and largest wave of infections.
Aid agencies warn that Ethiopia's northern Tigray region is too volatile for aid to reach hundreds of thousands of civilians in need. Aid agencies warned of a lack of food, medication,